Welcome to Every Step podcast. I'm Krystyna Weston.
And I'm Judith Beck.
Every Step is the podcast where career and life meet.
With a new guest every episode, we explore the gutsy issues affecting everyone in the workplace.
Today we welcome Dr Hazel MacTavish-West, CEO and co-founder of Seedlab Australia. Today we're chatting about starting a business from idea to market. Welcome, Hazel.
Thank you, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely to have you with us. For those in the audience who don't know about Seedlab, we'd love you to briefly explain what it's all about.
So Seedlab Australia is a business incubator and accelerator program specifically for founders and businesses producing FMCG products, so fast-moving consumer goods in value-added food, non-alcoholic drink, and sustainably produced personal and home care products. And the program is fully supported by Woolworths Australia, and it's specifically designed to help businesses get their products onto the Woolworths shelves. And it's for Australian and New Zealand businesses.
Fantastic. That is fantastic. I mean, what a great opportunity for a new business to be able to access that type of support.
It's unbelievable, really, especially since the whole program for participants is free, absolutely free, and there's no equity taken. It's simply a training and support program with mentorship and connection to a whole heap of opportunities and a whole heap of people who will help you build your business faster and safer and bigger than you ever thought possible. It's amazing. I wish we'd had Seedlab when I was trying to do this.
Oh gosh, I wish there was those sorts of things available for other segments of entrepreneurship, because usually there's some level of co-funding, or you have to pay your way in, or it can get quite complicated.
Yeah.
So Hazel, what are the most challenging aspects for startups in this particular space? You see a lot of people come through, and both Judith and I have worked in startups, but we haven't worked in this particular space of startups. So what do you find are the biggest issues or challenges that your founders have when they come to you?
Well, that's a really good question. And of course, some of them have very different challenges to each other, but some of the universal ones I see are the product just isn't unique enough. It's a Me Too product, or it's a passion product, or both of the above, where somebody has had a personal problem themselves or seen an area that they felt passionate about doing something in, then they've created a product to solve their problem. And they've forgotten that it's not about them. It's actually about all the people out there who have that problem. And are there enough of them? Are they prepared to pay for this solution to their problem? And what are the other solutions they could buy instead? And so they haven't if they haven't taken that approach to things, they haven't actually got enough of the unique, valued components to their proposition that will make it a success. When you see a product come in, or a business come in, that has truly got a unique, valuable proposition that is clearly going to fulfill the needs of a large number of consumers, there is hardly any help required. You're largely just dusting off the edges and off you go, and it becomes obvious. It's so hard, though, to say to someone, and we use the phrase in Seedlab, your baby's ugly. And that's really harsh way of saying it. But we've been given the mandate by Woolworths that is our job, to say to someone, I'm sorry, your baby's ugly. You need to actually go and do X, Y, and Z, and then come back again. Or, we can help you do X, Y, and Z. But we're not going to just sit here and help you take this baby to Woolworths, who will then say your baby's ugly, because that's what they will say. So we give very hard feedback around this doesn't taste great. And taste is first for food products, particularly. We get samples in. I've got a whole wraith of samples here. We get samples in very early, and the team have diverse background, and we're able to put a very subjective view on them. And if it's something we would buy, and we think tastes good, we absolutely pull out all the stops. But I think that's the biggest one, that the blinkers are on. And the other one is that they often think that they can be full-time in their business far sooner than they ever should be. And it puts so much pressure on a new business to have to pay for a mortgage and school fees and food and rent and insurance and all the things you need to do to live and to build a business. We had a conversation with Chris from Little Urchin a little while ago, the sun care business, and he's got what looks from the outside, and I'm sure it is, a very successful and growing business. But he made the point that even now he's not full-time in the business. He's not expecting to draw all his income from it. And that was, I think, a bit of a wake-up call for everybody.
Yeah. So I think the issues you describe are not unique to the food space. When I listen to what you've just shared, I resonate with a lot of those comments in terms of thinking about my own startup experiences and other entrepreneurs' experience. I think one of the hardest parts, and you've highlighted this perfectly, is that we all think our baby, we all think our product, we all think our idea is the best, the most amazing. And I actually wish, with a couple of the business ideas that I've had along the way, that somebody actually had the courage to say to me, your baby's just, it's either ugly or your baby is just not pretty enough.
Yeah.
Because that actually saves a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of heartache. But not a lot of business people have the courage to tell others that their baby ain't that pretty.
And they don't have the remit to do it either. You have when they come into Seedlab, we make it very clear that this is what we are here to do. And we also, the alternative, if you don't come into Seedlab and you just set out there to do a business and then you're going to pitch it to various market channels and go for it, is who's going to tell you your baby's ugly? I mean, nobody has going to have the remit to tell you that, because any of the help that you're going to get along the way is probably going to be paid help. So it might be an accountant, it might be a marketing advisor, it might be an investor or whatever. There's someone who you've paid effectively to help you. And I think that's where we do have a unique role to play, because we're not paid. And we also are there as an independent. We're not Woolworths either. We are independent of Woolworths, and we have emerged as a group that have years, a combined 150 years experience of doing this themselves for our own businesses and for other businesses. And we have learned that the number one value we need to look for when we're getting other people to come in is trust. Do we trust this person? Would we give them our money? Would we trust them to listen to what they say? And so we say to our participants, look, we only use the trust equation before we bring anybody to you. And that means that you can trust them too. And we hope you can trust us. We set out with only good intentions, and this is our remit. But we will give you honest advice. It is just our opinion. And so sometimes we may say, well, look, we think you need to redesign your packaging because of these reasons. And then they may go, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And look, I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales here. And we'll go, great, that's fine. It can only ever give you our opinion.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It is a painful thing to have to share. But I wish someone had told me when I was trying to do this, I don't know how many years ago now in the UK, and I was paying people thousands of pounds because I didn't know what I didn't know. And nobody said, Hazel, this is never going to work like this.
It's
And if
so
someone had
important.
just said that,
Yeah.
it would have saved years of pain and heartache and money that I didn't have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the world is full of yes people. You can find yes people everywhere. And, you know, I used to always say to people that I would be advising is that surround yourself with a good number of no people, the ones that actually don't have an agenda, that will tell you the truth. They'll tell you about the mistakes. And because those people are going to be the ones that are going to help you grow. It's good to have the cheerleaders in your background saying great, great too. But if you don't have the people who are willing to tell you that, you know, probably that doesn't taste so good, or the product, and you might not accept it, but at least they've told you that, and at least you have something to weigh up. Do you ever have a situation where the people just will not accept the critique?
Yes.
And then they go, okay, well, we're going somewhere else? I mean, does that happen too?
We do. And I think in the early days, we were reluctant to say this just doesn't taste good enough. And we've got very much more non-reluctant to say that now. But it's, we have had a number of them who don't want to hear that or haven't heard it. I mean, it's that I think sometimes they just haven't heard you.
And it's a painful thing to actually hear for some people.
But what we have had, and is the opposite as well, where somebody comes into there's 2 stages to Seedlab. There's boot camp, which is a 6-week incubator program. It's, when I say 6 weeks, it's about an hour and a half of live online content a week, and probably 2 to 3 hours of on-demand content each week over 6 weeks. But we've had them come into boot camp and they get a rapid sense check and go, oh, I need to do this and this and this and this and this. And then they go off and do it. And you go, oh, I wish you'd just waited till we'd completed the process, because it was highly likely, or you did get into cultivate, but now you've gone and spent another $5,000 over there doing that. And actually just go through the process, and we actually will help you solve all of the things you need to solve, because Cultivate's a 4-month accelerator program where we work with them one-on-one in great detail. And they almost run too fast. And it's so easy to run down those rabbit holes when you're a founder on your own. And I know this from my own experience. You can sit there with, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, suddenly thinking, oh, I think this font is a great font, and I think I'll protect this domain name, and I'll go off and buy this trademark. And there's nobody to go, hang on, hold your horses. Let's just think about this and let's get a strategy for this. And worse still, over, you know, a bottle of wine and 2 o'clock in the morning, very strange decisions can get made.
That's how they all happen, Hazel. That's how it all happens.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, have you had a situation there though where the idea or the product was amazing and it got to market, but it just wasn't selling? And you, like, what would be some of the reasons that would cause that? Would it be the lack of social media, or?
Yeah, we have, and I'm obviously not going to name any names in this area, but getting part of the incubator and accelerator programs aims are to get the businesses retail ready and the products retail ready, and help them pitch and present to Woolworths. So it's about getting onto the shelf. What we are evolving into, there's some very exciting developments happening in Seedlab over the next 6 months, which will be around really helping those products fly off the shelves once they're there, because that's getting in is arguably the easy bit. It's not at all easy, but getting in is the easy bit. It's making it work is the difficult bit. And for many businesses, it's also the boring bit, because the excitement's all around the development and the selling in. Yay, I got 400 stores or whatever. And then they're like, what am I going to do next? And like, well, actually, now you're going to sell them, and you're going to talk about this again, and they get bored. But
hustle.
And the challenge is usually around pricing. And that's something that we've seen a number of businesses that have got their products into a number of stores and have then had to pull a significant amount of costs out of the production process. So they may have had a vegan product that actually didn't need to be vegan because, for example, it might have been a cook-in sauce or something that people were going to add chicken or beef or fish or lamb or tofu to, but most people were not going to add tofu to it. So it being vegan was irrelevant. So actually pulling the vegan aspects of it out and making it simply a very, very tasty sauce made it cheaper to make, perhaps reducing the pack size a little bit. So it was a serves 2 instead of a serves 3 to 4, perhaps looking at a longer shelf life product so it could be made in bigger batches. All of those things and more can be looked at to streamline the price. And that's what we've done even after they've got on shelf. Ideally, we would do it beforehand so that there's far more profitability for everybody in the product. Sometimes it's just not possible because you have no idea at some stage what the volume demand is going to be. And you may need to get a new contract manufacturer, which is an opportunity then to look at all the pricings. But
and that's
it's usually around price.
Yeah, it's quite challenging for a new founder when they're looking at other products on the shelves and consumers are becoming very price sensitive and they're happy to try things, but they're not going to pay necessarily a really big premium. And are they supported along that way in terms of the price? Because pricing for any business, for any product is a critical issue, and understanding your inputs, but also understanding what your market is prepared to pay for that product or service. And that's a challenge in any industry, but it has some nuances in yours.
Yes, it does. And certainly that's something we start very early in boot camp. We do a little bit of business stuff first around the exit strategy for the business and the intellectual property and just checking all the business is set up properly and everything for growth. Then we get stuck into the product, and that's all around not some of the consumer stuff around the unique value proposition, the claims, how it's made and all the rest. And then we get stuck into, right, let's look at the cost of goods. What is the competitor analysis here? Looking at the breakdown of the cost of goods over packaging and ingredients and processes and labor. And that labor actually is the one that often gets forgotten when a business is making the product themselves. They don't factor that in properly. And so we talk through all that. And then as part of the cultivate experience, particularly if they've already had a listing, for example, we will look at, right, how can we now economies of scale, how can we pull out more cost, add more value, or at least, as much profitability as possible. But absolutely, we are about building retail-ready products, but retail-ready businesses is where the sustainability will come in, because the products will have to evolve and continue to.
What are you finding with labor these days? How difficult is it for people to find when they've developed their small businesses? Is that one of their biggest issues?
Not necessarily. I would say 40 to 50% of the businesses coming into Seedlab are actually using a contract manufacturer already, or certainly that is their modus operandi, because they've had an idea, they've created a product, and they've found someone to make it for them. And that's a perfectly valid way of doing it. And it's potentially much lower risk way of doing it than setting up a factory themselves. But some of them have set up factories themselves, which is, I take my hat off to them, because that's a huge thing to do. the challenge around labour that we help them with in Seedlab is very much around getting protocols written down so that if you run over by a bus, God forbid, but it has happened actually, almost literally, that the process can still continue and the products can still go out the door. And also that everyone understands the specifications of the product and the specifications of their job. So we help them with HR, even down to interviewing and, working through problems with people, helping them understand their co-workers and their partners, which are often life partners as well, which is particularly challenging. We're working at the startup and small business end of the scale. So the founders are generally individuals, couples, either in a relationship or not. And that puts a lot of strain on that relationship because it becomes, I use the phrase 27/9. It's 27 hours a day, 9 days a week. In other words, there is no gap in that. And you can be going to bed talking about invoicing and, problems with things. And it isn't good for any life.
I absolutely, having lived that experience, I'm in business with my husband and life partner, and it is really, really, really challenging, and it takes an additional set of skills and additional effort in terms of communication and understanding to actually pull through and to actually continue to respect each other during that process. I think that's one of the having been through it over a number of years, it is very challenging, especially when there's no money coming in the door and pressure is on and both partners are invested fully in the business. There's not one, sometimes one partner continues to earn money and the other partner is focusing more on the business. But when both partners are in the business, that takes something special.
It does. It does.
Are you finding that the age range of people who are going into new business ventures has increased? Like, in other words, people who've had maybe a long corporate life have decided, now I've always wanted to do this and I've got this product. And has that changed, or what are the demographics?
Okay, I can't really say whether it's changed. We've been doing Seedlab in various formats now. We're in our, fourth year. So in Seedlab Tasmania, which was our pilot program, we very much had a number of people who were retired from their career, if you like, and now following their passion projects. And in Seedlab Australia, we've had the spectrum. We've had the most of them being sort of mid-20s and upwards. But we have had a very, very young entrepreneur who was very passionate and came into the program with his mother as well. But I would say most of them are in that early to mid-career stage in Seedlab Australia anyway. And what I've learned is that if they've come into this and their idea, like, let's say they want to I like to talk about making jam because everyone understands what jam is. So let's say their idea is to make this really unique jam, or they think it is, but their background is in accounting, or let's say, no, not even that, software development, or maybe they were a personal trainer or a chef. And so there's a whole lot of information that we have to backfill around food technology and, all the things around building a business that is to do with food that makes it, they're learning everything from scratch.
Yeah.
My advice is generally go with something where you are an expert. There's got to be, I believe, most of the successful businesses are where one aspect of what they were doing was where their expertise came in. So they're either really good at social marketing, or they're really good at the finances, or they're really good at food technology, or they're really good at sales. Something they've got to be good at that they need to do. Otherwise, it's really hard slog. And I think that also helps give authenticity to what they're doing, because there's a backstory of relevance they can talk about, which is very important. But
you find it's essential for new founders to be really up to date on social media and getting their products out that way?
Yes, absolutely. So we were in very, as I mentioned, Seedlab is supported by Woolworths, and that is real support. We speak to them on a daily basis, and we talk to them about individual businesses, and we talk to them about the program and where we're going. And one of the things they said recently was, look, once a product's got in here, the keys to success are in-store sampling, and if that's not possible, and as well as marketing on social media channels with video. So you can imagine that's Instagram, that's TikTok. And so surprising number of our businesses say, oh, yeah, I really need to update my website. Yeah, I really should be doing more with social media. And I just feel like exploding a bomb near them when they say things like that, because yes, that's what you need to be doing, because you have to be making far more noise than you possibly expect to get in terms of sales. And if there's any reluctance to share the story or to share the how-to or the how do I use this or where do I buy this or what's in this, or all aspects of that need to be shared. And there needs to be strategy, and there needs to be a budget, and there needs to be priority. I understand that, but it absolutely has to be done, not negotiable. And they need to keep moving as the platforms evolve and using what's relevant. So we are producing significant content within Seedlab to help them navigate that. We bring in the best of the best who can also teach, because there's no point having someone who's really good at something but simply can't teach it. We're not trying to just be a portal to paid work for all these experts. We're trying to get them to come in and teach people how to fish. And so we've got stuff coming in around how to use TikTok, how to, make good videos in those few seconds that you have, but, draw people into the store, draw people through, all sorts of aspects. So it's not negotiable as far as I'm concerned.
And it's about storytelling, becoming, I'm listening to what you're saying, and it's about becoming a really good storyteller. So people do engage with you because you're the essence of the brand, and then they connect to the brand, and then that builds trust.
Yes. And we've had a few people who are reluctant to share or put a face to the brand. They just want to be the product. And we're like, yeah, that'll work for a little while, but it isn't going to work long term. If you're in this all up, you're in this, and you are the face of this. And the other thing people say is, and particularly we hear this more in Seedlab Tasmania, is, I don't want to be too pushy. I'm just going to stand here at my market stall and let people come and buy it. And we're like, great. So who's going to pay for your kids' food tonight? You have a job to do. You have to sell this product, and people want what you have, but you've just got to communicate with them and realize that this is the solution right here. Give me your money. How many do you want? Not be reluctant to ask for the sale.
Isn't it funny? Because it's that fear of like, I don't want to be seen as a salesperson, instead of thinking everybody who is in business is a salesperson. Yeah. So you don't have to be aggressive and go up to them. I mean, often all they need to do is say, hello, how are you today? And people will come up to their booth, or just acknowledge, somebody who's, when you go into the small shops or you go into a department store, if I go into someone's shop and they don't look up and acknowledge me, I walk out.
I agree. Yep, entirely.
I think if you are going to at least go hello, I'm not going to give you any kind of business. And sales can be so easy, but it's just a stigma that they think I'm not a salesperson, rather than I'm developing a business. And I think about when I started my business, I wish we had social media. Do you remember how expensive it was to buy brochures and
PR
material?
Yep.
All this stuff is for free. And I think that's where they just really need to get that mind shift, that just get on TikTok or get on Instagram. And I get it, because I was one of those people who feared, and still do, like, I don't know how to do it all that well. But once if you're going to sell that product, you got to get on there and put something out, and you get better and better with it.
That's right. Or you've just got to acknowledge that, well, you're not the one to do it then. So someone in your business is going to have to be the one to do it. Well, let's just not do this. Go and get a job, because
Yes.
let's call it what it is. You either do it or someone has to do it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's time consuming. All of that other stuff is very time consuming.
It is. And I think the only way through it, certainly from a business perspective, is to have a strategy and to prioritize, what you're doing. And then, right, this is what I'm going to do. And this is the time and the money I'm going to allot to it. And then draw a line under it. It doesn't have to be a thing that is all consuming. But without a strategy, it can feel endless. And it also you can sound like a loose cannon very easily.
Yeah. But it's also, I mean, if you have a group of people behind you and people you can access, it makes your ride a lot easier and the journey a lot better than trying to do it all by yourself.
Yeah, if they're good people.
Good people.
I'm just reflecting on a family member's has got a very clever invention, and this family member knows this particular product inside out, but all the other skills we've just been talking about are not there. Yeah. And that person struggles to even identify if the people he's hiring are good enough to be supporting him. So I stand back and kind of in pain sometimes looking at the decisions that are being made, because they're so passionate about what they're doing, but they're hiring people that aren't actually helping them, and they're spending good money on people that are not supporting them as they could. And it's difficult when you've got domain experience in one area, to your point earlier, and then you're trying to do all these other things. Because in any small business, you've got to be good at everything. You've got to understand your books. You've got to understand the financials. You've got to understand the inputs. You've got to be a marketing expert. You've got to understand brand strategy. You've got, in your industry, packaging is critical, distribution. There's just so many elements. And it is a big ask unless you're surrounded by people that are really good and can support you, and that you're getting quality support, that it's not just paid people that are not really helping you.
And that's what Seedlab does. It helps them identify what you need and who you need and how to find them. It doesn't obviously give you the solution of here's the money to go and do it, but at least it also, another thing we do is called Live in Conversation, where we bring in the industry heroes, if you like, people like Chris Matthews from Little Urchin, Karen Lebsamp from Curry on Kitchen. We've had Chobani, a number of them have come and shared their story, and the participants get to ask questions. It goes for about 90 minutes, and we do one a month. And that's been a really powerful thing for people to hear things like, well, I just use, like Chris was quite open with, well, I just buy in what I need. I've got virtual assistants for this and this and this, and I get this bit done over here. I don't employ any staff, and I'm not full-time in my business either myself. And those examples just are the only way that I know of in today's age to learn how to do something that there are no books written about. There's many books written out there about how to do business. I don't think I've ever seen one about how to develop an FMCG product and make it work. There probably are bits of it, but there's no one size fits all. There's no one solution. But hearing a number of people's journeys and how long it's taken, because that's the other thing, everyone hears about the overnight successes and doesn't realize the 15 years that went in previously to that.
Absolutely.
And, how much it cost. You can throw money at things, or you can do things the organic way And so I think that's the benefit of Seedlab, that there's a heap of content, there's a heap of people, and there's a heap of examples to go with. And that is exactly why we created it, because I had learnt the hard way. You don't know what you don't know when you're trying to do this.
So true.
So here's what you do need to know, and here's some people you can trust talking about all these things, and we'll guide you through it, and then we'll help you find some opportunities at the end. Goodness me, it's an opportunity money can't buy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, a very good point, because the thing is sometimes when people are starting out and they think, oh, I only have this amount of money, and I know what I'm doing because I had a corporate life and I can go and do it. And they think they're actually going to save money. But in actual fact, if they get help and they get, and they have a group that helps them that understands, that has been there, done that, they're actually going to save a lot more money and time and energy in the long term. And it will probably make the difference between success and not success, because if you make a mistake, it can be very costly. Where if you go to people who have already been there and they're experts, they can very quickly put a fresh eye on it and say, you need to do this you need to get this registered, you need to have a trademark on this, there's all kinds of different aspects. And to try to do it alone, I would never recommend that.
No, I wouldn't either. I really wouldn't. Yeah.
It would just be. Now we are already getting up to a time there, and I've got a question here, which would be great to. We often get a lot of people who send questions in as well, and this one came in, and I've been holding it for you because it's relevant. And it's someone who said that they have a great idea for a consumer product. They've got some money in the bank to start things off. They've managed people and they've had a success in their past. And of course, just like you said they feel their product is revolutionary. So it's obviously the best thing. But what should they really know starting off? And what are some of the misperceptions that startup founders make? So I'll start with you, Hazel.
What should you really know? Well, I think you always, in the words of, is it Simon Sinek, you've always got to start with why, and the why being twofold. Your why are you doing this? Why are you doing this personally? And we try and separate out, are you doing it for your personal income or to build a dream that you have somewhere, or personal passion? And why are you doing it from your business? What does that success look like for you? And the second why is, why should anybody care? And what is it going to do for them? And I think being really clear about that and pulling it apart, so that brings it down to everything from exit strategies to storytelling in your why, to what is uniquely valued about your product. And if you can't, you said earlier, Krystyna, elevator pitch, if you can't summarize it in 10 or 20 words, what's unique about your product, then go and sit down and sort it out until you can. And that's the same about writing a book. What is the story? What's the premise of this book? If you can't summarize that in a few words, then you need to go and sit down and think about it. The next thing, and so there's two aspects to that, is, as we talked about earlier, I've got this problem, so I've developed this product. That's a push. Or I've identified this need and I have solved the problem by this. That is a pull. There's a pull through. I would say you need to be in those areas where there's a pull through, because there's more likelihood for success. And then looking at the need. So trying to quantify who this is for, how many of them are there, what's the competitors doing. Realistic competitor analysis is really important. So people say to me, I might be producing a Jamaican sauce. So there's no competitors here. A Jamaican barbecue sauce. There's no competitors because there's no Jamaican barbecue sauce in Woolworths. And I'm like, right, okay. So what are the people who would creating meals that would use Jamaican sauce? What are they using now? Oh, they're using barbecue sauce. So that's a competitor then, isn't it? There's all these other things, or they could have a different flavor or, you know, a different type of thing. We try and broaden out what people's competitor analysis looks like. And then it's all around what we've talked about, understanding the profitability here. How much does it cost to make it? How are you going to get it to your people? What are your routes to market? And yeah, if it's a success, let's say this does work and suddenly you've got 1,000-fold growth. How are you going to do that? What's your plan? Future proofing for success is where I like to be, because who wants to future proof for failure? You know, if this is going to work, how are you going to do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that answer the question?
Your thoughts?
Yeah, some great stuff there, Hazel. And if anyone's interested in exploring the issue of your why, listen into the Steve Factor podcast, where we actually do a deep dive into what's your why. Around businesses. But just to add on to what Hazel's saying, product market fit is critical. And I think the mistake that I've made in past businesses is I went and asked all my friends, and guess what your friends are going to tell you? Your friends are going to tell you that everything is amazing. What you've done is phenomenal. And they're not, because they don't want to hurt your feelings, they're not going to tell you necessarily what you need to hear. So get product market fit, test your product. And if it's a food-based product, sample lots of people and go out in the streets with it and get their feedback, because that's where you'll find the true answers. Other bits of advice, and this is for any business, it takes longer than you ever expect and it costs more than you ever expect. And
it's harder than you can ever imagine.
It's harder than you can ever imagine. And if you thought you were resilient at the beginning of the process, you have no idea what it means to be resilient. So start exercising those resilient muscles, because it's a bumpy ride. And there are lots of low lows, unfortunately, with any startup. And you've got to be ready, and you've got to be really passionate about what you're doing and love what you're doing, so that you can come out of those low lows.
Absolutely. And just to cap that off is basically what you were saying, Hazel, before, that you like hard work, because I've found that people who have gone into, maybe from a corporate background, into then developing a new product, a lot of times they don't realize how hard it is, and they're used to working in an environment where they've got resources and people work for them, or and they don't have to pay for things, and then they go into setting up their own, and they literally need to understand that you turn the lights on. You turn the light. You're the person that does everything, and you need to be comfortable with doing the hack work. Everything, because the buck stops with you. And I think that's probably one of the things that I've seen over the years, that people find it hard or don't realize the amount of time and energy that they have to put in it. And I would say, think about the time and energy that you think you've got to put in it, and triple it.
Quadruple it.
Triple it.
10 times it.
and the reality is, if you can't hire people until you make money, and I would also say to founders, don't spend money unwisely. Don't spend money on things that you don't need now. And and you don't buy business. That you really got to look at the numbers as well, and it's very simple. If the money's coming in, you can spend it. But if it's not coming in, you can't spend it. So those are some of the things that I would say. But what a great conversation, and really this is a conversation we could continue for many episodes, because there's many people out there right now who are not happy with corporate life, or not happy with what they're doing, and they want to follow the dream that they've been thinking about for many years, and thinking, oh, I'll just go and make a jam. I'll go out and I'll make soap or whatever the product is. And they have to remember that it's not easy, because anything worthwhile achieving is hard work.
Yep. I totally agree with everything both of you have just said. Yeah. And
so thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. And I would be saying to everyone, they should check out Seedlab. If you're looking to start a business, don't do it on your own. Get help and get the professionals to help you, and your journey will probably be a lot smoother. So thanks, Hazel. We really appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Thanks.
For more information about Every Step and our guests, head to everysteppodcast.com. To be notified of new podcasts, please subscribe via your favourite listening platform. And of course, follow us on social media and direct message us to share your ideas about guests or topics.
Still won't let me do it.
I'll stop recording.